Resuming debate, de reprise de débat, the honourable member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The motion that we have put forward today is a motion that I'm actually quite ashamed has to exist in this country. We are calling for the House and the Liberal government to acknowledge the gravity of repeat rampant criminality in Canada and communities of all sizes across the country, and replace the Liberal approach to bail with a 3 strikes and you're out law, one that will stop criminals convicted of 3 serious offenses from getting bail, parole, probation, or house arrest. It will keep violent criminals behind bars for at least 10 years. Now, if you were to talk to a lot of Canadians, they would be shocked that this is not already the law. But Canadians know the system is broken. Canadians know that when they walk down streets that they used to be able to walk down at any hour of the day or night and feel safe and secure, that they can no longer do that. Business owners, not just in large cities, but also in small communities like those across my riding, are replacing windows over and over and over again that are getting broken into. And we have a government that has, through its policies, through legislation that it has continued to defend, told victims of crime that they do not matter, that they have no rights, that the rights of offenders matter more. A small number of offenders, relatively speaking, that is being arrested and released and arrested and released over and over and over again. Oftentimes, it's not uncommon to hear a police department say that they have a list of 100, 150 people that are responsible for the overwhelming majority of their calls. And this isn't just vandalism or property crime, although I will firmly say that property crime is real crime because we know that it is a precursor to crimes that target individuals, crimes that are often violent. But it is all sorts of criminality that is causing injury, that is causing the degradation of communities, that is causing a serious and real public safety threat. And when I talk to the experts on this, police chiefs in my riding, like the chief of the police service of London, Ontario, of St. Thomas, Ontario, of Elmer, Ontario, when you look at the messaging that has been put out from police associations, from frontline officers, they all draw a direct line between Bill C-75, which introduced a suite of changes, but among them was the introduction of something called the principle of restraint. Now, the Minister of Justice got up in this House a few days ago and accused Conservatives of not having read the law. Now, I've read it many, many times, as have the police officers that I speak to on a regular basis of this, as have the provincial governments that have been calling for this to be repealed. And it says very clearly that judges must release offenders under the least onerous conditions at the earliest opportunity. Now, it is very rare that we can draw a direct line to a social problem on Canadian streets to a policy. But everyone involved in this space, everyone except the Liberal government, by the way, has done exactly that because they have seen the night and day difference from before C-75 to after C-75. I shared in a few interviews, and I've shared online, a story that happened in my riding this summer in St. Thomas, where a historic building, 140 plus years old, was burned down by a repeat offender who was out on bail and had previously been convicted of arson. This is not the way the country is supposed to be. This is not the way things used to be, and it's certainly not the way things will be if the Liberal government will agree to provide real bail reform. Real bail reform. And I want to share, and again, this is beyond parody now, these stories, these heartbreaking stories of repeat rampant criminality, prolific offenders, as police will call them, from across the country. But evidently, since the Liberal government has still dug in its heels on this, I need to give a few stories. There was one in Langley, a man who was charged with violently beating a woman on June 1st, a complete stranger in downtown Langley, British Columbia. It was his 37th court appearance in 3 years. his 37th court appearance in 3 years. This is what the system is doing on a regular basis. Another case, a 12-year-old boy charged with attempted murder in a shooting in Toronto. The fact that we are talking about 12-year-olds being involved in this level of criminality is bad enough. It's even worse when you consider that the 12-year-old was out on bail. This is what the system is. Edmonton, August 30th, Priscilla McGreer was shot to death outside her home by her cousin, who had been charged with first-degree murder, aggravated assault, and breach of probation, an extensive history with the courts, including a homicide charge from 2018. There are more of these cases than I could read in the time this chamber ever has. So my question is, what would it take? What would it take for the government to acknowledge that there is a problem, first off, and then acknowledge that they caused the problem? Because remember, when the Liberal government continues to tell us that it is championing bail reform, they leave out the part that the so-called reforms that have caused this problem were also pitched to us by the Liberal government as bail reform. These are their changes that have led to these problems that we're now trying to seek a real resolution for. My colleague, the honourable member for Oxford, has put forward a very significant bail reform bill that will go forward with actual action. And instead, we have the Liberal government obstructing the efforts that we've been making to advance this issue and to push forward real solutions. And that is why this motion that we're putting forward, as I said at the beginning, is one that I wish was not necessary in Canada, but it is necessary and it is so tremendously important. And I'll provide a couple of other examples here, because I like to lean on what the experts are saying. I like to lean on victims' rights groups, attorneys general in the various provinces of the country, police chiefs, frontline police officers. I'm going to read one line here, which I think is incredibly relevant to the discussion at hand. Quote, "Recidivism, or repeat offending, impacts public safety and the victims affected by those new crimes." The quote continues later on, "Reducing recidivism can generate additional substantial benefits to society by reducing criminal justice costs and preventing new victimization." That comes from Public Safety Canada. The government's own messaging recognizes the significant harms that recidivism causes. Yet this government has not provided real action. They keep alluding to this future bail reform bill that may or may not exist, that we do not know the contents of, and expect us to get behind it. Well, we are providing, through today's motion, a very real, very tangible solution that will hit directly at the concerns that have been raised by concerned citizens across this country. We have the bill from the honourable member for Oxford, which is forthcoming, which again provides real, tangible solutions. But whenever this issue comes, we hear from the government, oh, blame the provinces, blame everyone else. Everything other than the introspection to look at what everyone else in the country sees, which is that C-75, among many things that it did that we do not contest as a party, through the principle of restraint, has made bail easier to get for serious offenders and has made the conditions of bail that repeat offenders are getting less onerous. And this has resulted in police officers not even being able to enforce bail conditions. Not even being able to, because the sheer volume of offenders that are out on bail at any given moment is so large that this becomes something where scarce resources have to be deployed to do what is cleaning up after the failures of this Liberal government. So with this government claiming it cares about bail reform, I'm asking them to commit to real bail reform and to put the rights of victims, the rights of people who do not feel safe in their own communities, ahead of the rights of offenders. And this is not a radical or partisan proposal. This is something that is the bare minimum for a country to keep its citizens safe, to keep its communities safe. I sent a letter out to my constituents a few weeks ago on this issue, and my office has been overwhelmed by the response, including from people who say, I've always been a Liberal, but they cannot abide by what this Liberal government has done in abandoning and abdicating its duty to preserve and protect public safety. I am asking this Liberal government to commit to supporting our motion and providing real bail reform rather than obstruction. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments. Questions et commentaires. The Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for his commentary here today. He mentioned the Member of Parliament for Oxford will be having a Conservative-led introduction of legislation in respect to criminal law reform. The motion today references a three strikes and you're out policy that the Conservative Party is being put forward by the member from Battle River Crowfoot. Why is it that that provision does not exist in the Member of Parliament from Oxford's legislation? There seems to be a bit of a non-alignment in Conservative policy. Wondering if he could explore and help us why.
Good question.
The member for Elgin St. Thomas, London South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a bizarre question. I think the Liberals have broken so many things, it will take several different stages to undo this damage. But I would ask a more important question, which is, where is the Liberal legislation that they keep promising but have never provided even an iota of detail as to what the contents of it will be? That's the real question this government should be answering, not wondering why we should be doing more. We're happy to take over this entire file if the Liberal government will let us.
Questions and comments, questions et commentaires. Le député de Berthier-Masquinongé.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Je remercie le collègue pour son discours. Écoutez, je comprends l'intention de renforcer la loi et l'ordre, puis je comprends la noblesse de l'objectif. Par contre, évidemment, il faut toujours faire attention pour ne pas se substituer avec les tribunaux en tant que législateur. Donc, on peut proposer des mesures, mais il faut toujours aussi donner de la latitude. Entre autres, peut-être, on pourrait donner une possibilité de dérogation pour les clauses minimales obligatoires, mais on serait d'accord pour augmenter pour les crimes graves, entre autres ceux avec des armes. Je pense que c'est une erreur. Ma question aux députés, nous avons proposé de créer un registre des organisations criminelles, parce qu'on a des gens qui circulent en public, publiquement affichés dans les organisations criminelles qu'on connaît dangereuses, qu'on connaît problématiques, et de créer ce registre-là pourrait permettre aux forces de l'ordre d'avoir de meilleures actions et que ces gens-là puissent être peut-être accusés plus facilement. Qu'est-ce que mon collègue pense de cette suggestion-là?
Honourable member for Elgin St. Thomas, London South.
I thank the honourable member for the question, and I know that people in Quebec are just as affected by these crime and justice issues as people across the country. I think that we need people that are going to be championing solutions, and I admire and respect my colleague for actually coming forward with a tangible solution, which the Liberal government has not done, except to say that there is this mythical bail bill that we will eventually see, while obstructing real tangible proposals that we are putting forward. So I look forward to working with my honourable colleague on resolutions that are going to be real and make our streets and communities safer.
Questions and comments. The honourable member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Mr. Speaker, my colleague, I want to thank him for his remarks, has spoken eloquently about the impact of these Liberal policies in his riding. One of the things that I've heard repeatedly in my riding is the trauma that victims of crime experience and the re-traumatization that happens when repeat offenders are present in the community and just walk by you on the street or show up in your neighborhood. And I'm wondering if my colleague might speak to his experiences in his riding. Thank you.
The honourable member for Elgin St. Thomas, London South.
It's an important question, and I thank my colleague from Nanaimo Ladysmith for asking it. I have a lot of small communities in my riding where these are very real issues and very known people that continue to re-traumatize communities and victims. And by the way, probation and parole, this is a process that as well continues to re-traumatize people when they're forced to see even serious multiple murderers continue to bring their victims and the families of victims back to re-traumatize them over and over again. And we are the only party that is providing real solutions to this.
Questions and comments. Questions et commentaires. The honourable parliamentary secretary to the government house leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. The member has made reference to mythical bail legislation. And we have had a Prime Minister who's made a very strong commitment to bring it in this fall. The concern I have is the Conservatives like to talk tough on crime, but when it comes to actually passing legislation through, they have to be shamed in order to get it, even to go through second reading so it can go to a standing committee where the public and stakeholders can provide thoughts and feedback on it. I wonder if the member would be prepared, if the legislation does materialize, will he be prepared to then
I have to interrupt the member to allow the member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South in 20 seconds or less to respond.
The member for Winnipeg North just said if the legislation materializes, so even he doesn't know if it's real, Mr. Speaker. I would encourage him to leave this chamber for even an hour or two from time to time and look at what's happening on the streets here and realize that Canadians are calling for real action, and we are prepared to deliver it, even though the Liberal government is not.
Resuming